then we moved into more novel ICT and also diagnostic kind of tools that can support seed quality assurance. And the final session that we were in is much more on zooming in different ways to structure and improve how early generation seed supply is organized for different crops in Africa. So I would like to come first to you, Josiah. Please, can you share some of the practices or any highlights or any points that you really like to bring forward where we from the seed community can really improve our contribution for increasing food security and nutrition? And what kind of game changer did you hear today?
Thank you very much, Walter. I hope you can hear me well. And thank you for this opportunity to share a few ideas, which hopefully should be able to contribute to the larger picture. When we talk about game changers, because of the nature of the seed sector, where the final product is actually a collation or a sum total of efforts of many along the seed value chain, it's very difficult to single out any particular step which actually more than others contributes to the end product. I see the value chain as being akin to running a relay race where you pass the baton from one player to the other. Therefore, you see that from germplasm conservation to variety development, to seed multiplication, to seed marketing, and even to utilization, all under the ambit of quality assurance, the whole value chain is replete or rife with opportunities for game changers. So we always have to bear in mind that there can be no food security without seed security. Therefore, the transformation that we seek to enhance in seed security directly goes to strengthen the structures for food security. I was very happy since the morning time about the practical experiences that have been contributed by colleagues from all over Africa. I particularly liked the examples given on the realistic and practical approaches which have yielded measurable outcomes. If I may just give a few examples, the excellent arrangements of branding farmer seeds in Burundi, that was excellent. And I think this is a simple step which obviously has yielded very, very good results. And I would like to see it replicated in all the other countries. I was also very, very enchanted with the experience of the informal sector seeds in Kenya, where indigenous cultivars, through popularization, have merited the opportunity to have them incorporated in the variety catalog. I mean, there are many, many examples which were given, and all of these are good game changers. But for me, the biggest game changer I would like to float is the demand. If I'm to talk about game changers, I would say demand and demand and demand. Demand because without demand, obviously there can be no supply. And demand has two phases. First of all, you need to know the demand, number one. Number two, you have to stimulate demand. If you can do these two things, the seed industry in Africa will move very, very rapidly forward. I will take opportunity during my next round to talk about how the seed is impacting food security in its various senses. Thank you very much, Walter.
Okay, thank you very much. So you really emphasize demand and also looking at different seed systems, different crops, And also with food systems, we know that the demand for different varieties will come up very clearly. So it's also something we have to learn how to deal with demand in a much more dynamic way. And also what was also coming up earlier in the sessions is that we really have a very distinguished, very different seed users also. So then the demand is not that one word, it's very diverse. So I think
Exactly.
the diversity
Yes.
in dealing with changing cropping systems, but also diversity in different type of users, also
Yes.
taking into account inclusion in this is really a big point. But I think it's really to take this kind of perspective into demand, I think is really a great way forward. Gloria, let me move to you. We know also you have been very much involved in lots of seed work, through your position at the Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIAT. And you have really done groundbreaking work working with biodiversity conservation, conservation of local varieties, but also working with local groups and also translating that into policy point. So I want you to, if we take the food system perspective, we really want to address also this aspect of environmental outcomes, how to respond, how in moving with the seed sector forward, addressing issues of biodiversity, climate change, different increasing resilience. So what kind of, listening today and viewing the different presentations today, what with that kind of perspective, what kind of game changers did you perceive from the presentations today?
Yes, thank you very much, Walter, and thank you very much, everybody, for this opportunity to give my views on this very important topic, and indeed timely because the seed system is changing, and also timely because people are now starting to realize that there is a need for healthy food, there is a need for sustainable food production, and I think these are the key topics that are going to be discussed in the Food Summit. So linking these to food systems issues, first I'd like to just make one statement that we are what we eat and we grow what we eat. So intrinsically, our food system is very much linked to our seed systems. And if at the food systems level, we are aiming for a healthy diet, and we are aiming for dietary diversity, this will indeed translate to having a very diverse seed system with lots of genetic diversity, with lots of agrobiodiversity, to be able to feed into our food systems. So that aspect is very, very important for food production, but also at the same time, we are having a forever changing climate. The climate is not static, it is dynamic, and therefore this dictates that our seed system will also be dynamic. And actually, the work we've been doing on resilient seed systems has proven that in some places, farmers have stopped growing certain crops because they can no longer respond to their food needs. Farmers in some cases, in some places that are very semi-arid, have stopped growing maize because maize can no longer perform given the changing climate and given the pests and diseases invasion. So we have to look at other crops. And by looking at other crops, we are also looking at their seed systems. So this is where you find things like sorghums and finger millets, beans, cowpeas, and all these neglected and maybe underutilized crops coming into play. But yet we also have to look at their seed systems and try and develop them. Now, if you look at those seed systems, you will find that the key in those seed systems are usually the very local farmers, or and one thing that was discussed today is the informal seed sector. And you'll find that for those particular seed systems, the informal seed sector plays a very critical role in providing seed security and also food security in the end. So you find that engaging key players at the local level for example, local seed businesses would play a very important role in providing seeds that will be able to respond to climate change or pests and diseases, or to be able to diversify our diets and also diversify our food systems. We have to rely on institutional collaboration, which really involves local seed production, which really involves, in the case that we've been working on at the Alliance, community seed banks, and all these local partners that can be able to produce the seed. But yet there are also issues that come into play. And one of the issues that come into play is the quality of this seed. Now, for you to achieve quality of this seed, what we picked today also was the issue of capacity development of these actors. Are the local seed businesses able to produce quality seed? If their capacity is built, I believe they are able to produce good quality seed. And then the other issue that I picked up is the issue of decentralization of seed quality assurance services. And this we have seen in Uganda, and it has been very successful in Uganda. When we started work in Uganda a couple of years ago, there were problems. There were only maybe around 5 seed inspectors. And this was not working at all. It was even not working for the existing larger private sector companies. So over the years and working on policies, we have really managed to get the Ministry of Agriculture to decentralize seed inspection services to really reach the local level, and also to build their capacity at the local level, and also to build internal mechanisms of seed quality assurance with the local seed businesses, with the local seed producers such as community seed banks, and with seed cooperatives. So as at now, we have about 65 seed inspectors in Uganda that really manage to reach out those local seed businesses and to really make sure that the seed being produced is of good quality. Then the other thing, and this I think was mentioned by Abishka with the examples of local seed businesses again, was the issue of having alternative quality assurance mechanisms, such as quality declared seed. And quality declared seed is very, very important, especially for the success of local seed businesses, because number one, it is cheap. And number two, it is easily accessible. And number three, because of the alternative quality assurance, small and small seed enterprises are able to also participate in the seed value chain. And then number four, and most importantly, is also the issue of commercialization of some of these varieties that are being churned out by the research, by the national research organizations and by the CG centers. Okay. So for them to be able to be commercialized effectively and at the local level, and to be able to provide to that reach, these alternative quality assurance mechanisms such as QDS have played a critical and important role. Now,
so can you try to conclude, because I would like to have more discussion also. Yes, please.
Yes, trying to conclude, one other key policy area is the issue of registration of farmers' varieties. Some of those neglected and underutilized crops, or some of those good performing varieties, are usually farmers' varieties. And one key area that we have seen being developed at this very moment is on the issue of registration of farmers' varieties. I think if those key policy areas are tackled, we will really see these game changers, and hopefully also the institutional innovations that are related to linking farmers to local seed businesses, and local seed businesses to government inspection, and all those institutions that come in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gloria. I think what you did is, by really zooming in, I think you addressed the quality assurance, to some degree also EGS, and also the demand, and also the local seed businesses. Try to blend them, and you brought them into your experiences that in your work in Uganda, I think, really nicely. So in that way, you also addressed not only the aspect of nutrition, where you say, okay, we need to make sure that the seed system caters for a wide diversity of crops, but you also linked it then to climate change, that we also have to bring that dynamic. So I saw also Josiah, maybe you want to react to some of the points that were made by Gloria.
Yes, thank you very much. I think Gloria has given us a very broad perspective, and I thank her very much. I had earlier just broadly indicated the areas that are considered would make for good game changers, but now zeroing in on the food security aspect and the nutrition, as well as the biodiversity aspect, I would like to add a bit to what Gloria has said by stressing that there's need for proper management of the gene bank arrangement, you know, and this should always be in cooperation with the farmer managed seed systems, because the bulk of the biodiversity is actually in the hands of the farmers. So this is extremely important. And then on the issue of climate change, I think we are all aware that the onus is presently primarily on the lap of the breeders. Because unless we can come up with adaptable materials, then we are not in a position to fare well in the consequences of climate change. So for me, breeders and the research stations constitute our frontline warriors so far as preparing for the future eventuality. And then, of course, this will eventually feed into the resilience, where we need our breeders to breed for harsh conditions and establish community seed banks and enhance farmer-managed seed systems.
Okay.
I have also thought about the impacts on food security and nutrition, and I think I have 4 points, which I'll quickly go through. One is the quantitative aspect, where as a result of yield increments of the new varieties, we will be able to put more food on the table. This is the simplest way to look at the contribution of seed. Then 2, the quality aspect. Quality aspect has to do with nutritional enhancement through variety development, you know, the levels of chemicals and vitamins and so forth in the seeds or eventually in the produce. That's also very important. Then we also look at the access. In other words, unless farmers can have access to the required seed, then they miss out on all these advantages. So the availability of strong and efficient seed companies, not only seed companies, even local seed enterprises, if they are well organized, then they will have a better chance of conveying the seed that we need farmers to plant to the farm door. And then lastly, enhancement of seed multiplication through, enhancement of seed utilization through effective extension methodologies, as well as farmer training sessions. This is very, very important. Often we are putting these high technology materials in the hands of farmers. Unless we are with them to assist them to know how to deploy them properly, then we are actually wasting resources. So these are some of the aspects I would like to add to what Gloria has excellently proposed.
Yeah, thank you very much, Josiah. I really see interesting observations from the participants and also passing by in the chat, and I really recommend everybody to join in that because we want, as all in the community participating in this conference, I think there's a responsibility also to voice what we really think are the game changers to be brought up for the Food System Summit. And I think the diversity of crops to be addressed, the dynamics, making sure that we get good varieties out there, the responding to changes, these inclusive aspects, and that every of these aspects resonates in the discussion, for example, about LSBs. But at the same time, the whole aspect, how to forecast, and the whole demand setting that we have been discussing, and also how to basically have proper quality assurance mechanism in place that suit different seed systems. Now I want to move a little bit to asking at this very moment, Mohammed, if he can stay with us. I hope so. You're hearing this conversation where we have voices from all over Africa. We talked a lot about Uganda. What kind of game changers would you like to bring based on the conversation that you had last week, synthesizing all the outcomes of the ISSD Ethiopia? What do you really want to bring in here, complementing it from the other programs that were presented today?
Sorry, Walker and all everybody, that the connection is so bad. It always disconnect. So if I'm able to talk a few minutes, that is already good. Yes, with this issue of game changer and our experience in the last 1 decade, I think the game changer is not something that we design outside and just bring into the system. That's what probably we have to take care of the game changing issues. Because yes, we know there are different components of the seed sector. We have the EGS or the breeding system, and we have the quality assurance and all those, the marketing, and as others are also saying, it's also about bringing in seed producers that can efficiently produce and supply. Yes, we can have input to change in this, but what from our experience also, what I can say is that it all depends on where we are, and we are not very sure that the opportunities that emerge at a given point, and the challenges are always also changing. So game changer is not something that we all pack it here and move it. So it's something that we design the process, something that we learn in the process and change. And whenever we get the opportunity, we seize that opportunity to game change. It could be only simply a policy change, which may change a lot of other things, or it could be a simple introduction of a finance system. So what I advise, or what my experience is, not to design, not to think of a game changer as a package of something to change the seed sector in any country. It is about a learning process. It's about change in the system. That's what I want to say in short, because I'm also afraid of the disconnection.
Yeah, what I get from you is also thoughts in that we are brothers in this field for quite some time, is that we should not distract ourselves. What brings us together in this larger community of practice on integrated seed sector development, positioning, guiding sector transformation in Africa, is that we say, okay, let's come up with some game changer equal to a solution. That would be too narrow, it would be too linear, and it basically would undermine everything a lot what we have been working on for the last 10 years. So what I hear repeatedly, okay, take this that different seed systems, different crops, different countries, how they are organized, they are not the same. So it's more about what we could bring as game changers to say how we approach seed systems. And that has implications, how we set demands, how we work with different kind of varieties, how we deal with different crops, how now, let's say we talk about local seed businesses after this decade of experience in several countries where they really started to take. But at the same time, we can talk about emerging group of small and medium enterprises that really more and more take up a share in seed business in many countries. Even we can talk about global seed companies coming to Africa, starting to invest. They all exist next to each other and all have their own contribution. So it's not about one way moving forward, but have multiple forwards. So if we become too narrow with game changers, we would go back basically 10 years ago and say, okay, we go back that we say to strategies that were also ISSD Africa was a reaction to, yeah, that we really want to be pluralistic in that. So it's more how we approach the sector, and that I think the coming days really fine-tune, and each of those, how we approach the seed sector, has implications on how we set demand, how we work in forecasting, in EGS, how we look at responsibilities in who does what in EGS, and how we connect these dots, and how we do, for example, quality assurance. Maybe Gloria, do you want to share anything on this point?
Yes, indeed. For me, the demand-driven seed sector for me is really, really very important, and this should not be only be forecasted from this demand for seed, but the demand for food. I think the government has usually been very efficient in forecasting the metric tons of maize that is needed, is being consumed or is going to be consumed, metric tons of beans and so on. And from that demand for food, I think we can be able to efficiently say that this amount of seed can produce this amount of food under certain conditions. And then we have a system whereby the seed system is also efficiently feeding into the food system. So looking at food security issues also from a very important perspective of the seed feeding into the system. For me, that's a very nice game changer that we can all take advantage of. And also the other thing is also looking at it from a broader policy level of maybe now starting to link these to the issue that I had earlier said about dietary diversity. And, the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Agriculture are very good at saying that, okay, eat more fruits, eat more vegetables, and all these advices they give, but they don't ensure that the seed system is providing those vegetables and those fruits. So for me, this demand story should really go beyond the level of seed, also to the level of food, so that whatever we are doing to ensure food security or nutrition security is really going back to what seeds do we have, because we grow what we eat and we are what we eat at the end of the day. I think that's all I can say regarding this issue of demand.
Yeah, so I think you hit, a very important point where we are today in 2021, and also what is very clear dealing with the food systems, because we talk about food security and nutrition continuously. I remember when we were talking in 2008, we were only targeting at food security when we started with ISSD. So I almost said, when you started to talk, Gloria, I said, okay, we always talk about food security, food safety, or food security assessments. I think it's really critical also to look in our efforts in seed systems and crop improvement also to say, okay, how does that translate in healthy diets for that? And that has a direct implication also how we approach seed systems. So I remember also earlier that our strong bias also in seed systems on cereals. And if you look at the diet of many Africans, root and tuber crops are very critical in their resilience. And if you look at healthy diets, we talk about vegetables, we talk about fruits, we talk about importance of pulses. So maybe if we move forward considering seed systems, we also really have to always be clear what crops we are talking about. Looking at this food and food security and nutrition, I don't know. I think Mohammed is frozen again. So looking at this broader context, Josiah, on food security and nutrition. I don't know if you're still with us, Josiah. Would you like to share any points on this point? I think he's okay. Dr. Wobil.
No, yeah, he's there, but
yeah, he's coming back. Let me repeat the question. So we are talking about this whole crop and variety portfolio. When we want to be much stronger in dealing with nutrition, that puts quite a lot of demands on the seed sector, on the kind of crops that we are talking about. And earlier I was also referring in one of the other sessions, I was also many Africans depend in their food security on root and tuber crops. So what making that much broader context of not beyond the cereals that you always focus on in the seed sector. How do you look at this diversity of crops and seed sector? Do you want to add something from your experience in there?
Yes, indeed. We always lament that the modern seed industry does not seem ready to incorporate the wide diversity of crops, so many of which we call food security crops, which can do the things that you have just enumerated. And the campaign is on. This campaign will be successful if only governments recognize the importance and role of the farmer-managed seed systems, the so-called informal sector. Gradually, we have to find a way to incorporate them, to mainstream them, you know, and always we say that there's the need to do this, but we do not say how. Mm-hmm. On my own side, I'm presently engaged in advising African Union to launch a program for continental seed harmonization. And as part of that work, I'm trying to consult all the colleagues so that we can come up with practical steps of mainstreaming the farmer-managed seed system. I think we cannot talk about nutrition security if we cannot incorporate in our seed system all the wide range of crops which hold various nutrients and vitamins and chemicals and minerals which are important for our well-being. So really, I think that is the first step, to widen the scope of the seed industry, to encourage and to find new ways of, for example, creating seed systems for cassava, for yams, for sweet potato, for all these things which are not cereals. Cereals are very easy to manage, so it seems we are all squatting there. But we know, at least for Africa, the bulk of our advantages in nutrition comes from these crops which have been more or less sidelined. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are going to the close more or less. I think also before I give also some final words for Gloria to share final thoughts, I really want to, I hope this session helps the participants also to be very clear to say, okay, think about what you think really are game changers. And we will run another same type of session on Wednesday at the concluding. So, and tomorrow you will have many different sessions. So it will be tough to capture many. But if you really see something which are more practical or more the way how we approach the seed sector, and that we can also bring out in forming also the African Union and also our own, each of our contributions moving towards the Food Summit. I would like to invite you to bring this out. So what is a final thought for you, Gloria, working in this area for quite some time and working with farmers and with diversity? What would you like to bring to a final point in this as a element of a game changer to the audience?
For me, I think the final take home I'd like to bring out is that for all these game changers to work and for anything to work, first we need institutional innovations. And these institutional innovations need to speak to the needs of both the food and seed sector in a way that really the institutions complement each other. And we need to take cognizance of the existence of both a formal seed sector that is very important for providing food security especially for the major crops like maize, wheat, and so on. But we also need to take cognizance of the existence of the informal seed sector, which really has a lot of this diversity that, as Josiah already mentioned, can be used even to feed into the breeding programs. But a lot of this diversity also can be used to ensure that our diets are diverse and healthy. And I want to give one example of where we've been working with farmers on production of seeds for traditional African leafy vegetables. And we have around 14 varieties of traditional leafy vegetables. Out of these 14, only 3 are being supplied by the informal sector. So the rest of the 11 varieties that have loads of nutrients in terms of zinc, iron, selenium, and all these micronutrients that our bodies need are not anywhere in the formal seed sector. Now, in a place like Kenya, it is even prohibited to sell these seeds from the informal seed sector. So what we have done to make sure that this seed reaches out to farmers is by using the community seed banking model, whereby we are not selling seed, so we are not breaking any law, but farmers can borrow the seed and return and share. And we use key custodian farmers in different communities to ensure that these seeds are reaching out to farmers. So such kinds of institutional innovations can really help to ensure that seed systems are working for everybody. And then finally, the policy environment must really be looked into. Even as discussions are going on at the African Union, we must have a policy environment that speaks to the needs of the seed sector and the needs of the food sector in ways that will ensure that the complementarities between the informal seed sector and the formal seed sector are taken advantage of and not suppressed in any way, so that we ensure a food system that is both food secure and nutrition secure. Thank you very much.
Well, I think, thank you very much for those words, Gloria. I think you have really shared a very clear perspective to all the audience. I have nothing to add on that. I'm sure also, Josiah, I think you really support many of the points that she said. And with your words, Gloria, I would like to close this session. I want to thank you both for joining today in all the presentations and also sharing your synthesis. It is quite a big job. And I hope we inspire all the participants to also look towards for their own benefit, but also for the benefit of say, okay, what do we as a community together in this conference really think are game changers, where we have to really put our investment, our time and dedication and our experiences for the future, for also for how we as a community of seed practitioners can contribute to food system outcomes. Thank you very much. Back to you, James.
Thank you very much, Walter. And indeed, thank you very much to Gloria and Josiah for a very absorbing discussion and really a great way to end what has been a very enjoyable day. I want to, in absentia for some, but I want to thank all of our contributors across the various sessions today. I think, unfortunately, for those people who are yet to have their sessions tomorrow and Wednesday, the bar has been set very high, so there's now lots of expectation for the sessions still to come. I also want to thank, not just in this session, but in the other sessions, you as participants. The comments and the questions and the different experiences being shared are really invaluable for this conference experience. There's some quite challenging points being put forward. Unfortunately, as you know, we're not actually able to deal with all of them here. But again, a reminder, and we'll talk about the space where you can keep discussions going if that's what you'd like to do. Today brings us to, I should say, this brings an end to today's program. Let me already show what's coming up tomorrow. You will notice that tomorrow, as opposed to today, we have 3 parallel sessions. Unfortunately, that means you need to take some choices as to where you're going to be. Many of the sessions are here where you are now, in the main plenary, as we're calling it, but there are 3 sessions where a different link is required. If you've registered for those sessions or for the main conference, you are already going to get information in your inbox. If you haven't done that, please go to issdafrica.org and sign up. You'll see a button there, subscribe. And otherwise, just head to issdafrica.org. All of the links, everything you need to continue participating is there. In fact, I probably should be showing the homepage of this right now. So you'll find there a list of all of the different sessions. Each one has a link for the 3 days. You'll find the big orange button which for today after 9:30 means you click there and you join here. Tomorrow it'll be 10 o'clock. Click that button, you'll arrive in here, and the same on Wednesday. The conference program is updated regularly for any minor changes as to who's speaking or in what order, etc. But I want to draw your attention to the bright blue button, which is the share and discuss with conference attendees. We already see quite some comments and some items being shared there, different links, different announcements. I'm very happy to see that there's also people letting us know from where you're dialing in, as it were, on the interactive attendee map. So thanks for that. And if you haven't done it, please jump on over. And this is just a snapshot of what's there. So you'll find this participant map. You'll find a general sharing board with different articles, links. People are sharing a couple of documents, I believe. Each of the sessions has its own, what would you call it, reflection space. I guess it's a column for each session where you can put some comments, where you might have some questions for people who are either presenting in the panel or just in attendance. You'll find one of those for each day. You'll also find a video library. We've put some videos in there to really get things going, but we are hoping that you'll also add some nice video content that you know. And it was a pity that Mohammed was only able to join for a few minutes, but we had the closing webinar for ISSD Ethiopia entitled Guiding Seed Sector Transformation in Ethiopia. That was last Thursday. If you haven't had a chance, I really recommend you at least flick through some of the parts of that webinar. It was very interesting discussions there as well. But really, that brings an end to today's session, to today's program. I will leave this slide up so you can already have a look again and find out what your priority sessions are for tomorrow. Again, many thanks for being here. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And we wish you a very pleasant evening. And until tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.